this top half. Does that make sense? Yes, no? Excellent. So, at level 5 entrepreneur, by the way, that's when I suggest you start companies. I don't suggest you start companies down here. I suggest you buy companies down here. Why? Because you can buy them for a lot less than they are worth. Pat, what were those numbers you were telling me about one of your clients just last week or something? Just run over and grab this mic, will you, mate? Pat was just telling me one of his coaching clients that he works with did a deal was it last week? Last month. What were the numbers on it? It was a gym here in Sydney?
Yeah, it's a gym in Surrey Hills. He's a personal trainer on his own gym. They were asking $160,000 for it. It was turning over $250, showing $40,000 profit, and the equipment stock at value was worth $75. That was the independent valuation. We ended up.
How much was replacement cost on the equipment?
That was it, $75. It was replacement cost.
Replacement cost. Because see, most people would start up that business, wouldn't they? And would they buy second-hand equipment to start it up? No, they'd go and buy brand new stuff, wouldn't they? And they'd put it on a lease over 10 bloody years, and they'd be chained to the damn thing for 10 years. So how much was equipment if you had to replace it?
It was 2 years old. The replacement was about $130.
Right. And that's what you would have paid for it. With no turnover, with no nothing, no clients, no ads in the yellow pages that are already there, paid for by some other bugger. How much did he pay for it?
We ended up getting it for $60,000.
$60,000. With 240 grand a year income, 75 grand at flog-off value asset. So if he shut it down next week, you could flog off the equipment for 75. But, I don't want to know any more numbers, Pat, because that's good enough. And this is what I'm saying to you. Now, if I had been his coach, he probably would have bargained a bit better than 60 grand. But if you get any time to have a chat, those of you from locally here, Pat and Red, do you want to wave your hand? Pat and Red both coach here in Sydney area. They're both. We have about 270 coaches around Australia and New Zealand that coach business owners. So if you want someone to coach you, please see the team. There's a couple of the guys here from Melbourne, wave, 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 wave. From Brisbane, up the back, Michael. So, but the whole point of the matter is that if you're going to start a business, it's going to be a long time that you will waste. It's not so much money you will waste, it'll be the time to build that up. See, with that gymnasium, could he build that up and then on-sell that for $250,000 in 2 months' time? Even if it took 6 months to sell it for $250,000. Like that, couple of friends of mine, I'll give you another example. A couple of friends of mine in Brisbane. 2 years ago, I taught them all this stuff about getting into business and doing all that, and they kind of listened, and they went off and they bought themselves a property, and I thought, oh, well, at least they're doing something. And 3 months ago, they bought themselves their first business, and it was a cafe bar restaurant. And it was advertised at $179,000. Cut a long story short, they dragged out the negotiations so long that it went into liquidation, because the guy basically had gambling debts up the wazoo. And beautiful liquidation, they picked it up from the liquidator for $27,000. $27,000, they put it back on the market last week at $195,000. Now let's say they only get $150,000 for it. 6 months of running it, they've made a few dollars along the way. They haven't made a heap because they've reinvested it back into their buying stock, you know, filling the bar with actual real stock in there and all that sort of stuff. But these are the sort of things I'm talking about, folks. So for those of you looking to start your own business, always remember, when you get to this level, start businesses. Why? What have you learned along the way? Have you built a database along the way of connections, yes or no? Yeah. Along the way, have you built a reputation? Will people invest with you? And that's the difference in the ball game, folks. So that's how we want to grow it. So the aim of the game is to build a business, which by definition, my definition, folks, what was my definition of a business? A commercial, profitable enterprise, everybody, that works without me. If you have to go, it's a job, it's not a business. So we need to set some goals to do that. I just do a simple thing. We call them SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, results-oriented, and they have a time frame. Specific, measurable, achievable, results-oriented, and they have a time frame. And the reason I put that up there is because when you first get into business, how many of you set goals around how big the business should be by when? How many of you set a goal of when you're going to finish the business? How many of you in the room have read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber? Okay, if you haven't, buy it, read it. You can order it off the team up the back of the room. The E-Myth, I've sold over 40,000 copies of The E-Myth in Australia, because I'm a firm believer in what Michael says, is that you should work on a business, not in it. Now, I disagree with Michael that you need ordinary people and extraordinary systems. I believe every business needs an extraordinary leader. You know, whether it's you or someone you employ, a business still needs an extraordinary leader. That is my belief. But when you set goals for your business, specific, measurable, achievable, results-oriented with a time frame, if we look at the goals, they do three things for you. They give you direction and focus, they create movement and momentum, and really it's the person you become because of the goals that is the major achievement. But I want to take that one step further. I'll give you 20 seconds to write that stuff down. Direction and focus, movement and momentum, and the person you become. They're the reasons for setting goals. You don't set them just to achieve them, you set them to give you all that. See, the moment you have a goal, does it give you more direction, more focus in life? Yeah. The moment you have a goal, do you start moving faster, get some more momentum up? Yep. The moment you have a goal, do you realize you need to become a different person? Yep. Pick up some new skills and so on. For your business, this is where I have to look. When will it be finished, for those of you that are in business? What date will you finish the business? And what do I mean by finished? When it is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without you. On that date, it is finished. So, for a business to work without you, see, why do most business owners work so hard, by the way? Because their business doesn't work. If the business worked, you wouldn't have to. One of the interesting things Gerber says, and he learnt this from Ray Kroc, who was the head of McDonald's, or founder of McDonald's. Well, he wasn't really the founder, he found the McDonald brothers who ran McDonald's and then bought them out. Do you all know that the McDonald brothers were actually his partners for many years? And then he bought them out. Wouldn't you be annoyed at selling out, huh? Sometimes we sell out just too early. Well, one of the things that Ray Kroc said is that you've got to build your business as if it will be replicated thousands upon thousands of times. So your business is your product. See, let's just say your product was marker pens. You were a marker pen manufacturer. And all you'd done is you'd created the lid. How much could you sell your marker pen for if all you've got's the lid? It's worth bugger all, isn't it? So if you've created a business that's just a lid, it's not really the whole thing, what's it worth? Nothing. And that's why what you said earlier, Roger, yes, you have to sell a job because you haven't created a real business. If you have to sell a business that doesn't work without you, and let's say it's a carpentry business, who do you have to sell it to? Another carpenter. So can you get much money for it? No. Whereas if you've created a carpentry business that works without you, it's run under management, who can buy it? An investor. Does that make sense? Can you charge more for it at that point? Exponentially more, folks. So when will you finish the business? What will be the sale price of the business when you finished it? What will it be worth? What will be its turnover on that date? What profitability will it have to justify that sale price? At what point in time will the business be finished? You've got to add to that your vision, folks. See, to build a company, let me just talk you through very quickly. I don't think it's on this flip chart, so I'll put it up. If you're going to build a company, step one is you have to come up with a what? Everyone call it out for me. A vision. That is step one to building a company. Now, what is a vision, folks? It's a long-term goal, isn't it? It's like, how many years out would a vision be? It's about 100 years out. How many of you remember the stories in the 80s of the Japanese businesses? Because when Japan was winning the economic warfare around the world, did everyone want to learn how the Japanese were doing it, yes or no? So we all taught in the 80s the Japanese way of doing business, yes or no? Yeah, and what was the big thing about them? They have such long vision. Centuries. Okay? So your vision, it has to be, like the vision I set up for Action International many years ago was world abundance through business re-education. Now, how big would my company need to be to achieve a goal like world abundance? Would it need to be a huge company? Yeah. So what have I got to create? A huge company. Would that be a little more profitable than a tiny company? What if I'd set the vision of Southeast Queensland abundance? You know, and have the best coaching business in Sunnybank. Do you know what I mean? This is the whole thing of how big is your vision to start the business. What you need to add to that is a mission statement. What's a mission statement say? It says how the heck you're going to achieve your vision. There's really 4 things that go into a mission statement. Now, by the way, folks, are these things vital to building a team, yes or no? Yeah, absolutely vital. Because I go into a lot of companies and they say, oh yeah, we've got a vision. Great, bring me over your secretary. Thanks. Now, secretary, what's the vision of the company? She goes, what? Oh, that's that thing that's in the boss's room on his wall somewhere. Hang on, let me go and read it. If everyone in your company cannot tell you the company's vision, you don't have a vision. Is that clear? Yes, no? How many of you went and saw General Norman Schwarzkopf when he came down to Australia? How many of you went to see him? Only a few of you. Wow. He was a spectacular man. I was lucky enough to both times he came down here to actually spend time with him one-on-one and just get to chat with him. And the biggest thing that I ever got from that guy was just how powerful and clear the vision was of him and his team when they went to Kuwait. Because he told me about when he was in the Vietnam War, he was a captain. And as a captain in the Vietnam War, they gave him a list of the 17 politically correct reasons why we're in the Vietnam War. Now, I don't know about you, but 17 reasons to be there that were politically correct wouldn't kind of motivate me that much. And if you went up to any of the people as to, why are you here in Vietnam? Because, you know, the government told us we're going to beat the communists. Whereas when they went to Kuwait, everyone in the whole peacekeeping force all knew their whole goal was to kick Saddam out of Kuwait. That was how clear the vision was. It was one simple statement: kick Saddam out of Kuwait. It was one of the biggest things I got from him. Another thing was, when placed in command, take charge. When placed in command, take charge. So number 3 to building a company, step 3, is to come up with what I call a culture statement. And I'm going to give you some examples of these on Wednesday. But I want you to understand that if you're going to build a business, you have to build it in the systematic methodology. Even if you're taking over an old company, you have to start again. Now, what is a culture statement, folks? By the way, the 4 things that go into your mission statement is: who are you? Like, who are the people that are going to run the company? What are they like? What are their characteristics? What business are you in? Who are your customers? And what makes you different? So who are you, the team? What business are you in? Who are your customers? And 4th, what makes you different? Because if nothing makes you different, you got to compete on price. The day there is something different about you, you don't have to compete on price anymore. It's like, why is it someone pays $200 for a Versace shirt over a Kmart shirt? Same material, probably made in the same bloody factory. Because there's something different about it. They've built that image. So what have you done? So your culture statement. Generally, when I ask people to build a culture statement, it's a 12-point statement. And in those 12 points, there's 3 things that are the most important values you have as the leader of the company. What are 3 things that are vital to you as a person? See, things like ownership, integrity. These are culture statements in many of my companies. Then, what are 3 things that are vital to the teams, to the business succeeding? Teamwork, communication. Then, 3 things that are vital to the customer. And also then 3 things that are vital to the team members who are joining your team. And if you come up with a culture statement like that, what do you think it's going to be like to work in your organisation? See, from day one when people join my company, guess what they're told? This is the culture. If you don't like it, bugger off. If you do like it, excellent, come work here. What does that save us a lot of? A lot of time. Training and rehiring. And getting the right people with the right attitude from day one. So then step 4 is where you set the goals. And these are goals that help you get to the vision. Does that make sense? Each of us has different time frames on our goals. Some like doing goals over a period of, a year. Others do 3, others do 5. That's a good trick. So, we create our goals. Then what's the next step? Step 5 is where you come up with an organisation chart. When the company's finished, what positions will there be in the company? When it's finished, not today, but when it's finished. Will you need a receptionist when it's finished? Probably. Will you need an accounts receivable person and an accounts payable person? Probably not, today's computerisation. That's one of the things I love about business today. 20 years ago, to run $1 million company, how many accounting people would you have needed? 10, 20? Today, to run $1 million company, how many accounting people do you need? 1 part-time with a $700 computer program? And people still whinge about paying $700 for the computer program. Well, that's okay. Employ 10 people. So then, where are we up to? Step 5. Step 6. Positional contracts. Tells people what they do. Okay, you're the receptionist. Here's what you do. Wouldn't that be a neat thing to walk into a job and it actually told you what you need to do? Step 7 goes along with positional contracts, but it needs to be a separate step in my books. KPIs, or key performance indicators. So for every position, there is a set of key performance indicators. Generally no less than 5 and no more than 10. Because if you try and measure them on 30 things, what will happen? Nothing, because it's all just doesn't matter. It's only one of 30 things. Step 8. Is the how-to manuals. Now, do these need to be written down, by the way? No, they can be photographs, videos, audio tapes. If you've got a sales situation, is it going to be any good writing down how to do sales? No, you've got to film it, audio tape it, whatever it needs to happen. But people need to see this stuff live to be able to emulate it. Does that make sense? Okay, so you go out there, the how-tos. If you've got a way of setting up something, like I had a friend of mine with a restaurant. The kitchen should look like this at the start of the day. It was a photograph. And guess where the photograph was stuck, by the way? On the wall in the kitchen. So he could walk in and say, does it look like the photo? No, quick, get it to look like the photo. I mean, is that simple, yes or no? See, that's the thing with systems, because that's really what we're talking about there with how-tos, writing systems. If it's easier to not use the system than to use it, then it's not a good system. Has to be easier to use the system than to ignore it. Too often, most companies, the systems it's easier to ignore than use. I remember when I first fell in love with systems is back when I had the photocopy shops. I have to tell you these because these were my all-time favourite systems. I remember when I first got into the photocopy shops, we had a major problem. And that was that out of the 4 shops, our most senior people weren't actually in the shops. They were in the office doing the paperwork and answering the phones. So I thought, I'm going to fix this. So I answered the phone myself for 2 weeks. And guess what I found out after answering the phone for 2 weeks? There were approximately 22 reasons people called our business. So I just made a list of why did people call. I came up with there was 22 reasons. So what did I then write? 22 scripts. Well, actually, I wrote 23. Guess what the 23rd one was? This is how to deal with something that's not on the other 22 scripts. Does that make sense? Like you have to do a just-in-case script. So I wrote these scripts and